To see you. How are you today?
Good to see you too, Jennifer. I am fabulous, and welcome everybody to our webinar. Today we're going to talk about CES 2025. Jennifer and I were there just last month, and talk about what we saw at 2025, some of the biggest trends that are out there. I will give you a hint. It was AI, everything. But we're also going to talk about what that really means, what we're seeing companies talking about, how they're adopting AI, what it means for a lot of the businesses that we're working with and how companies are starting to move forward with AI, and give you some examples of what we saw. So with that, Jennifer, this was your first CES. Tell me what
It was. Yeah, so thanks, Jean. It's so fun to be doing this with you this morning and glad to have everybody join us. Just a brief word about who we are and what we are. So some of you may have heard of the CMO Syndicate, some of you may know Jean, some of you may know me, or some of you may know some of the other chief marketing officers that are part of this company. And briefly, the CMO Syndicate is a group of chief marketing officers. We came together really for a mission, and that is we know marketing is not the arts and crafts department. We know that marketing actually is a lever for business growth and a driver. But what we didn't have a great appreciation for until we came together as this group is that we all have vastly different experiences and vastly different insights that come from those experiences. And when we share those, it's actually better for the companies that we work with and the clients that we work with. And this is a great example. So I had never been to CES before. We are lucky enough to have Jean Foster on our team, who is a pro and a veteran. She'll tell you about that. And so for me, because of Jean, I knew this was going to be bigger than the consumer gadget show, right? And I also had a feeling from going to South by Southwest over the years and it not just being about music and about film, but really deep, meaty business conversations. And the same could be said about something like a Davos with the World Economic Forum or a Cannes Lions Festival. If you've been to these, then you know that this is a great meeting of the minds. And if you really step into it, then you're going to come away with so much more learnings and insights, and especially if you get to team up with somebody like I did, Jean. So for me, it was a validation that places like this are a great place to learn and to continue to stay on the front edge. But also, the hype is not just about the gadgets at this particular show. It's really about deep learnings and where industries are going and where businesses already are. Jean's title for this session today, From Wow to Now, could not nail it any better, Jean. It is now, and I felt it in every aspect. Now, I will say, I needed roller skates. I sent Jean my agenda and I said, here's what I think I'm going to do. And Jean was like, good luck with that.
I
And she
laughed.
wasn't wrong.
I laughed.
You did. You weren't wrong. Jean, I had been to Apex there in Vegas, the consumer, the automotive aftermarket show, and I knew how big these Vegas shows could be, but I literally had no idea. So if you're going to go to CES, and I hope you go with us, I hope you go with somebody like Jean. Jean offered a service for some of our clients where she could tour people around. And I would not go my first time alone. I would only go with somebody like Jean to really help you understand what you might want to see and where you might want to be, because it's spread out throughout the city. It's not just at the convention center. So that's a long-winded way, but it was very overwhelming for me, but just really, really good for me. And Jean, I just thank you for taking us there.
Great. So just and a little bit about my background. So this was my 8th CES. But 6 of those were actually spent with the Consumer Technology Association, which is the organization behind CES. I was in charge, I was a senior vice president of marketing and communications. So I was on the other side of the curtain, if you will, for 6 years. And then this is my second CES as an attendee. And it's much easier as an attendee, I will say that. So I love it. I'm a techie. It's my playground. But, what's important for me at CES, yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of cool gadgets. That's why everybody goes to see that. But really, it's about the technology that shapes businesses and shapes the way that we live. So we wanted to share some of the, just the main takeouts and what we saw as some of the top trends coming out. And I narrowed it down to like 6 trends that I saw, and 6 top themes that were coming out of the show. As I mentioned, it was AI is in everything. So you could not turn from one booth to the next or one presentation to the next and really not see and hear about AI. AI has been a theme of CES for many years now, but this for me was the year where it really grew up. And that's why I said it's gone from like the wow factor to now. It's about how companies are embedding AI in everything that they do. It was about robots. Again, another theme of CES. There's always been lots and lots of robots, but it was really, this year was about AI-powered robots, not just for home and for the cool things, but really, again, industrial robots, companion robots, societal robots helping people that, like maybe, with an aging population, social robots there. So that was really, really interesting to see how these robots have come on so far. Wearables, we all want to monitor everything we do, our pulse, our heart rates. Everybody is wearing devices. But really what we're seeing is a move, and again, AI-powered move from, our watches and all that we wear, to really starting to monitor some of our vitals that really previously before you had to go to the doctor to monitor. So we've seen a lot of that. Digital health was huge. Sustainability and green energy, vehicle tech, and advanced mobility. So for me, these were some of the key themes, and we wanted to share some of those with you as we go through this presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Jean. I think one of the things that people, if you haven't been to a show like CES before, it was very, you could find your own industry depending on which building you were in, depending on which venue you were in. So Jean really helped me navigate. I went with a client as well, and we knew we wanted to be in like automotive and vehicle tech for a good part of the day. And so Jean helped me navigate where those venues would be. But every industry is represented there in some shape or form. And it was similar to, like I said, my experience at South by. South by, if you haven't been, it's a little bit different now than it was, but it used to be like the entertainment and the arts, and which I think makes conversations much more meaningful. If you've got Snoop Dogg playing in the background at your business meeting, I think it puts you in a certain vibe. But the same was true here. Every single industry is represented, and you can find your own space, and then you can also draw parallels from other industries where you can see something being applied in one industry and start to think about what that means for maybe one of our other clients or another industry that you may be in.
Yeah. So, we talked about AI, and I think for the last, hard to believe it's actually only been, about a year and a half that we've all been working with generative AI and really starting to adapt AI into what we do. I mean, I know that we use at CMO Syndicate, we use a range of AI tools every day in our work. But really what we're talking here, and a lot of the conversation at CES was about the future of AI, like where's AI going? The buzzword coming out of CES was physical AI. So do you know what physical AI is, Jen?
I didn't until you helped me with that. And in fact, I've had several conversations since and in fact, I think it was your LinkedIn post where you shared this slide. I wasn't able to go to the keynote as you were. I was somewhere. I think I was up in the Venetian running the healthcare lab down there, and I hadn't really thought. So for me, and I don't know about anybody else that's attending the webinar that might talk to us about this. For me, growing up through Shell, the way that I could best understand how AI was working, it was kind of like in Shell when you were in the laboratories or any big chemical company. And if you're in the laboratories and they start with like their bench scale testing. So these big oil and gas companies are nothing but testing and testing and testing and retesting. It's fascinating when you get in the belly of the beast, so to speak. But AI is nothing more to me than just being able to take that bench scale and really rapidly understand what's going on and being able to rapidly do the analysis and gain the insights quickly so that you can go to pilot plant scale, right? So this is just another step in quantum computing, really doing things much faster. And so that's how I understood AI. So when Jean came back, oh, this physical AI is different from generative AI, I was like, well, help me understand that. And that's when I started to see it as she spoke to me about it, in like the robotics. So when I went to automate with Shane, so Shane De La Force goes to automate every year. That's sort of his industry. And we would see robotics everywhere, especially like in packaging and shipping and things like that, the pack and pick and pack, right? I could see the robotics, and now I'm starting to understand how the robotics will have sensors, right? And they'll be able to see and they'll be able to hear and they'll be able to take in information other than just doing something. They'll be taking in information. Jean, I don't know if that was
I
my
think
take.
you're getting there. So this gentleman, if you don't know him, is Jensen Huang, who's the CEO of NVIDIA, who's the company really that's building the foundation for AI. And he showed up with his amazing leather jacket. The man has a rock star following. They actually had this keynote. Normally keynotes at CES are held in very large ballrooms, but Jensen broke the mold and they moved this one to the Michelob Ultra Arena. I want to say there was about 8,000 people at this session. It was full, one of the hottest tickets in town. And he is a rock star following. I mean, I was trampled by some of the media that follow him as he went on stage. But when he put this slide up, literally everybody in the room took their cameras out, their phones out, and took a photograph of this, because what he took us through was the journey and the evolution of AI. So AI has been with us for a long time. You know, it's been with us on Netflix. It's been anything that we've had, you know, that's been a recommendation engine or Amazon, anything that you know, that we use in our daily life like that is really based on what started as perceptive AI. About a year and a half ago, the world became aware of generative AI, and we're all using generative AI. But what Jensen's talking about is how NVIDIA are building the foundation for, first of all, agentic AI. So this is not necessarily like, you know, chatbots for customer service. It's more about agents within your business that are actually running functions independent of a human interaction. And companies are doing this today. Customer service is one of those, but again, it's not the chatbot side of it. It's actually what's going on in the background so that they can deliver the right customer service to you as you're reaching out to them. Physical AI is the one that's really, really interesting because, you know, if you think about generative AI, that maps words, it maps numbers, it maps text. Physical AI, what NVIDIA are doing at the moment is they're actually mapping and building a large language model of the real world, the physics of the world, light, heat, cold, movement, gravity. And the reason they're doing that is so that they can train, you mentioned like robots, that they can train self-driving vehicles. Now, this is going to help accelerate that, so that, think about a self-driving vehicle. To be able to train that, it has to detect between people, it has to detect lights, it has to understand signals that it's getting from the roadway. You know, so this is really about designing, learning about the physical and mapping the physical world, and really focusing on that. So it's fascinating area, and it was like the buzzword at every cocktail event, you know, at CES that week. Some of the other things, I'm going to quickly pan through them just to share a few slides because I think it's fun, but then I think we need to jump on to what's really the meat. So as I mentioned, you know, another area of discussion around AI is really about how do we make it more accessible? So you're starting to see companies talk about the more practical, the more caring face of AI. And the one that really summed it up for me was LG. So LG, think about them at CES. They have beautiful screens, they have beautiful images. But what they taught this year was all about affectionate intelligence. So their entire program was called Affectionate Intelligence. And let me give you a little bit of what that really means. This is their home hub. So they were talking about how use AI to embed in every part of your home. Some of it makes sense. Some of it might be a little bit still a little bit out there, you know, like the AI-enabled refrigerator that can look at all the ingredients in your fridge and then, you know, come up with recommendations on recipes. Not really useful for someone like me who doesn't tend to have a lot of stuff in their fridge. But it talked about sensors, you know, like the baby crib, you know, being able to sense how a baby is sleeping, their vitals, how they're making sure they're sleeping on their back, etc. And it's all monitored from this AI hub, and you can see it's got a cute little face, you know. So they're trying to make AI more accessible. So I thought that was an interesting theme as well. I mentioned robots. Robots were everywhere, and Jen, you and I both loved it, and I kept my photograph in here of you know, we met at John Deere. So John Deere is a company that has repositioned themselves as a data and AI company. You know, completely changed how they show up in the market. They've been at CES for 4 or 5 years now, but really what they're talking about is self-driving vehicles that are driven by AI, that are really focused on being able to use less water, less fertilizers, be able to manage land more efficiently, to really improve yields of, you know, for farmers and production. So that was, you know, they're always a favorite of mine. But we also had, like, you know, like industrial applications like Komatsu, or as you mentioned, you know, automate, you know, the robots that are in the warehouses, etc. So there's lots of examples of that. So those are just some of the you know, the big AI wow factors that we
There was
have.
a lot of optimization is, I think, the keyword, especially as I looked at automotive and transportation and things like that, whether we're talking about fire trucks or ambulances, or John Deere in the agricultural field. It's really about so much data that you can optimize. Farming is a very hard business. Mother Nature does not play nicely, and you're at the whim of something that's completely out of your hands and out of your control. So optimization in the agriculture community is so important. And while it's very frustrating, one of the reasons I wanted to go to John Deere is because I'm doing a lot of work in mechanics, right? And so if you look at the world that we've all come from, where mechanical machines, right? You could take tools and bolts and nuts apart, and you could maybe work with it. Now, so much of the machinery is driven by electronics, which now has the capacity for AI to be able to optimize. There's the great side of the story that allows you to get efficiency, which from a business is great. But then we also have to understand that that poses a whole new set of challenges, not just being able to take your toolbox and fix something. And there's John Deere's got a great story in how they're licensing the brains behind their machines. And so when you buy a machine, you're not necessarily just buying the hardware, you're actually looking at software now too. So it's going to take a mindset shift for a lot of our businesses to understand that we're going from the mechanical to the electrical, and the hardware to the software. And software is going to be a part of every single thing that we're working in.
Yeah, yeah. So I could talk forever and show slides upon slides of some of the cool stuff, but let me just finish with a couple before we really move to the, well, what the so what of all of this. So I mentioned lots of robots, lots of different uses of robots. Some of them are cutesy, some of them are practical. Here's just 3 that jumped out at me, literally jumped out in some cases. So the first one, the robot with the cute face, the yellow robot with the cute face, that's actually in production at the moment. This is actually a robot that's intended to be a companion robot in on at scale in a societal. So it's a French company that have launched this, and is intended to be a robot that would be used perhaps in care homes, care facilities, elder facilities for the elder, that can interact and provide services. And it was, the interaction with this thing was really quite amazing, and a little bit like creepy, because it came up to me and it says, hi Jean, how are you? Tell me about the CMO Syndicate. And I was like, yeah, because it was reading my badge. It was reading my, you know, my attendee badge. You know, but it's intended to have conversations and provide those types of services. So one to watch. The one that looks like a turtle is actually an ocean application, looking at being able to go out and test water. Oceanographers test water, test pollution, etc. So again, a practical application. And then the third one was the one that was really interesting to me. I think I want to say it costs about $16,000 or $20,000. It will fold your clothes. It will make a cocktail. And the example I saw, it was actually cooking and using knives, which I thought was kind of scary. So again, interesting, a lot of fun, but an example of just how AI has been built into robotics to make them a lot smarter, a lot more user-friendly. And then the last one I'm going to show, and then we can move on to chat, is we've talked a lot about, you know, and most of us are using some form of AI assistant. You know, we might be doing a chat, you know, have an AI assistant on our presentations to, you know, like do the transcripts. Wearables, and especially smart eyeglasses, were everywhere at CES, and you saw them all over the Super Bowl ads as well. But this one was really interesting. The one that jumped out was a company called Halliday. And really, this is not about, like, you know, like taking pictures with your glasses. This was actually having a built-in AI assistant that you would have in meetings. So this is when you're sitting in a meeting, one of the applications is that it's transcribing, summarizing, providing information to you. So you're not responding, you're just getting everything in your ears and on the screen in front of you. And then some of the practical applications are also like, you know, like translation services as well. So that's a really interesting one. So I think, you know, those are just some of the examples that we wanted to share. There's many more, and Jennifer knows that I can, you know, talk ad nauseum on this. But as I said, I think it's really important to say, like, what are the so what? So I'm going to stop sharing now, Jennifer. And, you know, let's kind of dive into some of those, you know, takeaways and what it means for businesses in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, that's great. Jean, you just you covered so much in such a short amount of time, and there's so much more that we can share. I think one of my takeaways is healthcare. So I've been taking care of my mom recently, and the idea of having that data available is so important. So there's this consumer need for data and for information that can be used in such a practical way. And I know some of this has been out for a while, but it's really making such giant leaps into where we are now. I think I did have an aha moment related to healthcare specifically, and maybe some of you can relate to this. And that is, I was talking to Jean about this, the democratization of the technology and the have and have nots. And I think companies, if you're in the consumer market or even if you're in the B2B space, to think through that while all this tech is coming on stream and it's all very now, and it's all very accessible to us, whether you've got the Aura ring or whether you've got, you know, the old Fitbits, or whether your watch is monitoring, or you've bought the wearables for your parents. It still requires that we all have really great, reliable internet service. And I deal regularly as a rural community member with not having that kind of access, and a lot of my family members don't. So I think as we think through policies, as we go through society, community, social welfare, we have to just always keep in mind, as we're all embracing this, are we leaving any groups out and any groups behind? And part of kind of like our human touch and our social giving, how do we make sure that all those communities come along with us? And it was just really poignant to me as I was going through the healthcare tech aisle, to make sure that we're thinking through all of society and how everybody can benefit from this. That was an aha for me.
Yeah, that's important. So, you know, so I want to make sure that we save up a couple of minutes for questions at the end. But, you know, as I look at this, you know, in context, like you and I, we're working with our clients all of the time to help them navigate transformation, growth, and obviously a big area at the moment that our clients are talking about, thinking about, trialing, is how they really start to adopt AI. And my take on this is it's no longer optional. I mean, I think we're seeing at CES and everywhere, you know, as companies, AI is a business imperative. I mean, starting with generative AI, but as we look forward to agentic and physical, AI is a business imperative. And I think, you know, when we saw some of the earlier use cases, it's about, you know, companies just saying, okay, how do I cut costs? And that is obviously operational efficiency is important, cutting costs is key. But I think for me, the most interesting companies are the companies who are using it to reposition their business and leapfrog the competition. That is one of the key takeaways is how do you start to really reposition what you do and scale? You think about, like the companies that came online and were enabled the creation of through the internet, or like Web 2.0, so it's this next phase of technical evolution and revolution that's going to create a lot more opportunities for companies to scale and grow.
I think there's going to be a huge gap between the haves and the have-nots. So when you say leapfrog, absolutely 100%. I have so many clients that haven't been able to embrace newer technologies, AI specifically, for a variety of reasons. And where they're kind of putting their toe in the water around some of the simple stuff, copywriting, things like that. But what we're seeing in the now, not the wow, but in the now, is it's data. So if anybody understands marketing, or even if you don't, marketing is data. It's data, data, data paired with the creative, right? But it's understanding your audience, it's understanding your clients, it's understanding your prospects through data. And what AI allows every single company is that rapid processing and analysis of the data to give us an indication of what we should be doing, what we should be considering. Jean, you said to me yesterday, where competition is likely to pop up is critical. Companies that have enjoyed a space for a while and just enjoyed a comfort maybe for a while, be careful, because these technologies will allow competitors to come out of anywhere rapidly. And so what could have been your comfort zone now, tomorrow you'll be out. And so, when you think about, well, how can I do this? I see we have a question from Fiona in London, and she's like, we're not doing anything. How do we get started? You need to grab a friend. You need to call somebody like Jean. You need to call somebody, get a friend, and start doing an audit. What is your business about? How are you going about? Where could we start to look at using some sort of technology help? Can you lean into AI? What kind of AI? Because at the syndicate, we're changing platforms regularly because it's developing so fast. Like, Jean, you mentioned a couple earlier, and every day we're just learning from each other and saying, well, did you look at this, and have you tried this, and in what capacity? I don't know, Jean, if you want to speak to that at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's what I'm seeing, like even just recently, I've been talking to a number of CEOs and CMOs, is what they're all trying a bunch of tools like generative AI, and what you're also starting to see now is, instead of those individual point solutions, some of the big like solution platforms that they've got, like HubSpot or Salesforce, or we're all using Zoom or Microsoft, they're starting to have these AI tools built in, which makes it easier for adoption. So we're using it. We're using it to scale our business. But the other thing, again, I'm seeing is the biggest struggle, and probably the biggest question that CEOs are asking at the moment is, how do they go from trialing to scale? That's the area I think is the biggest challenge for companies at the moment. Most of them have got over that hurdle of, let's put our toe in the water. How do we take it to scale? And that's the interesting conversations that we've got going on at the moment.
Valid point.
Do we have any more questions?
Okay. Let me see. I have, here, who is this? Chicago. What is that? Sarah in Chicago says, great that you guys went to CES. I can't ever get my company to sponsor me going to something unless we've got a booth there. How is it that you guys were able to do that? Jean, what recommendations would you have to get people to some of these big key events?
So when I was at CT, I would have this conversation often with people and help them really make the business case, because there has to be a business case. You can't just send somebody off to Vegas for 5 days. The cost is not insignificant to be there. But really, when I look at the benefit of going to events like this, first of all, it accelerates my learning in like 4 days. I can learn so much. I hit it hard. I don't sleep much, and I hit it hard, and I try and get as much in as possible. But it really accelerates my learning that then I can bring back to my organization, or in my case, I can bring it back to my clients. So it's hard to get that amount of learning in such a short space if you're not intense. You also, there's a when I was working with CES, there's a big focus around serendipity. It's like things happen at CES when you're waiting in the cab line. You meet people that could become business partners, or clients, or folks that could really help your business. So you don't know who you're going to meet. But it's also, if you are going, if you're say for in sales or business development, again, it's a way to get with a lot of people in a very short space of time. So I would focus on making a business case to say, what's the ROI of getting so much done in one venue in a short space of time?
Oh, that's great. That's great. So as we sort of close out, we're at time now. We appreciate the questions. We'll respond to some of the other ones. We'll communicate with you guys directly, but just know that for Jean and I and the rest of the folks at the CMO Syndicate, we're learning through you, with you, for you. And we're going to have a number of webinars coming up. So follow us on LinkedIn. We'll let you know what the next webinar is. We hope you can join us. We'll send some materials out afterwards, and we just appreciate you being here. Jean, do you have any final remarks?
No, I think you summed it up well, but I appreciate everybody's time.
Yeah, you're a great partner, Jean. Thanks so much for taking me along out there. I really appreciate it.
It was fun.
All
Thank you.
right. Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye.